Let's rattle off a bunch of deep sleepers to target late in your drafts. Up next on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome into FBT Express on Tuesday, March 18th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White. And Scott, let's do it rapid fire style, rattling off deep sleepers. You are up first.
All right, my favorite of all is probably Kris Bubic, who really hasn't risen much at all, even with it looking more and more likely he's going to be the fifth starter for the Royals. This is a guy who in 2023 seemed to take a big leap, came in with a lower release height, firmer changeup, new slider, and was piling up whiffs. Then needed Tommy John surgery very early. Came back last year in relief and retained those gains from 2023. He dominated in relief. Great strikeout numbers, elite control too. Now he's getting a chance back in the rotation, a role he's familiar with. And people need to pay attention to Kris Bubic. There's a lot of upside here.
Maybe the biggest riser of spring has been Astros prospect Cam Smith, who was the headliner in the Kyle Tucker trade. He was a first-round pick in last year's draft. He crushed the minors in a small sample size, hit .313 with 7 home runs, an OPS just over 1,000. He only got up to Double-A. This is eerily reminiscent of what happened with Wyatt Langford 2 years ago, and then there was a lot of hype with him last spring as well. But speaking of spring, Cam Smith has looked the part. He is hitting for batting average, hitting for power. They've been using him in right field as well. And as of Monday, there was a report that he has a good chance of making the opening day roster. There has been a lot of hype on him, but even with that, the NFBC ADP over the past week is 393. Scott, back to you.
Zach Veen, who has been basically the star for the Rockies every other day this spring, piling up extra base hits, making quality contact, very aggressive on the base paths, and they have an opening in right field. He's actually healthy. That's been an issue throughout his professional career. If you look at the minor league numbers, you're going to be unimpressed, but there were a lot of injuries, a lot of playing through injuries during that time. Zach Veen is showing this spring that he still has the skills that made him a first-round pick and a very high-end prospect when he was first drafted. Good chance he might have a job, too.
I love that call. Yeah, he's on the 40-man roster, too, so I think there's a chance that Zach Veen is also up on opening day for the Rockies. For me, I'm going to go with another outfielder, Victor Scott, who is battling for the Cardinals center field job, and he's an exciting prospect. He got called up last year, fell flat, didn't work out for him, but let me remind you, 94 steals in the minors back in 2023. He is having a huge spring, 13 for 35 with 2 home runs, 5 steals, and 1133 OPS. I think he could be a cheap source of 30-plus, maybe even 40-plus steals this season for those who play in deeper category leagues. Again, the name there was Victor Scott. And Scott, back to you.
Alan Roden of the Blue Jays, another outfielder who they were talking up even before spring training started, and he has been incredible for them this spring. 2 strikeouts the whole time, great on base skills. You look at the minor league data, Roden's high-end exit velocities are pretty impressive, particularly since he already has a knack for elevating the ball to his pull side. You could see him growing into more power, being a great on-base guy. It seems like the Blue Jays want to find a spot for him, and he's certainly lived up to that this spring. With Dalton Varsho potentially beginning the year on the IL, I noticed Roden got a start in center field the other day, so maybe they're looking at him there. Definitely somebody to look at late in 5 outfielder leagues.
Yep, I love that call on Alan Roden as well. Next up for me is Hayden Birdsong of the San Francisco Giants. He got called up last season after just 2 starts at AAA, flashed some upside, had 2 double-digit strikeout starts, 3 different pitches with a whiff rate over 32%, including his slider, which had a 49% whiff rate. The problem was his control. It was a huge problem, 5.4 walks per 9. Well, he showed up this spring, 12 innings, 6 hits, 1 run allowed, 0 walks to 18 strikeouts. Looks like he will be the Giants' SP5 to open the season, and I do think there is quite a bit of strikeout upside here with Hayden Birdsong. Let's take a quick break, and we'll have more Deep Sleepers right after this.
We dig it. Do you? The Pro Volleyball Federation on CBS Sports Network.
Welcome back in FBT Express. We're running through some of our favorite late round deep sleepers. And Scott, back to you.
Tomoyuki Sugano coming over from Japan, a very well-decorated pitcher there. Low ERAs consistently. He's looked great this spring. We don't have a lot of data on him, but he's been very effective. There's been a lot of talk about him not throwing especially hard. There was talk about Shota Imanaga not throwing especially hard coming over last year. And while I don't think Sugano's upside is quite that high, I do think he knows how to pitch. He'll be great at throwing strikes, keep the ball on the ground, keep the ERA low. I think the strikeout, the K per 9 rate could exceed 8 per 9. And nobody seems to want him in drafts. You can get him very late.
Next up for me is going to be Spencer Torkelson of the Tigers. Lots of people burned by Torkelson last year, but he's a former first overall pick back in 2020. Still just 25 years old. Hit 31 home runs in 2023. Obviously fell flat last season, but he's looked good this spring. Hitting 286, 4 home runs, just a 24% strikeout rate. Looks like there's an opportunity for the Tigers early on this season as the team's starting DH. They've dealt with a lot of injuries. They're also working him out in right field, so they're just trying to find ways to get Torkelson into their lineup. This is a player who has 30 home run upside. He is going outside of the top 450 picks. Again, that was Spencer Torkelson. And Scott, back to you.
Andy Pages, who I think has been underrated this whole time, and his ADP's remained very low, even with it becoming clear he's going to be the Dodgers' starting center fielder, with Hyun Kim getting sent down and Tommy Edman shifting over to second base. Pages has been playing center field in all the exhibition games in Tokyo, and young player with big power potential. His rookie season was kind of underwhelming, but that's been pretty typical in recent years for rookie bats to have that adjustment period. I think there's the potential for 25 plus homers here for Pages if he plays every day. And a guy who has that potential in the Dodgers lineup, I don't care if he's batting ninth. He has a chance to be an impact performer in fantasy.
Next up is Otto Lopez from the Marlins. He was a top 5 prospect for the Blue Jays entering 2022. Always had good bat-to-ball skills in the minors. He hit for good batting average, but didn't really provide much else. Last season, he got the chance to play with the Marlins, and he looked pretty good. Hit 270 with 6 home runs, 20 steals, a 274 XBA. That was 86th percentile. He's also a really good defender, so I believe that he's going to be in the Marlins lineup consistently. I think we can get a 260-plus batting average. Not much power here, maybe only 10 home runs, but I think we also could get 20-plus steals from Otto Lopez this season. And Scott, back to you.
Richard Fitz is going to be a part of the Red Sox rotation to open the year with all the injuries he had. He's looked great this spring, clearly put in some time in the pitching lab this offseason, throwing 3 miles per hour harder. And I think the stuff was already pretty good. His final 6 starts in the minors last year, he had a 70% strike rate and a 15% swinging strike rate. That's sort of what we saw from Spencer Schwellenbach as a rookie, though granted that was in the majors and Fitz was in the minors. Still, there's a lot to like here, especially with the added velocity.
All right, I'm going to wrap up with 2 more, Scott. I'll give you the opportunity to give out 2 more as well. Austin Hayes, outfielder with the Reds. He's a name we've heard for years. He's mostly unexciting, but I think he's a player who could provide 20 home runs this season in Great American Ballpark. Great place to hit with a batting average that doesn't kill you. I think something in the 260, 270 range. Plus, there was a report this weekend that Terry Francona is planning to bat Hayes cleanup in the Reds lineup right behind TJ Friedl, Matt McClain, and Ellie De La Cruz. So sign me up for Austin Hayes in those deeper 5 outfielder leagues. And Ben Rice from my New York Yankees has consistently put up big numbers in the minors just last year. Hit 273, 24 homers, 10 steals, 967 OPS, consistently big walk rates as well. He got called up out of necessity last season. He flashed a little bit early. We got that 3 home run game against the Red Sox, but then he did fall flat. He has an opportunity here with the Yankees this season because Giancarlo Stanton is dealing with that injury. So they need DH help. They need some pop in their lineup. I think Ben Rice could give him that. He's been crushing the ball this spring, posting huge exit velocity. So in leagues where you have a corner infielder spot, deeper leagues, and you need some pop, I do think Ben Rice could provide that. All right, Scott, your final 2.
I think we've all slept on David Hamilton as a potential starter at second base for the Red Sox because we've just been looking at other options. He's performed best of the candidates this spring, and Alex Cora has been glowing about him, talking about how he's added strength and talking about how the Red Sox lineup changed after they lost Hamilton to a fractured finger last year. Cora said, we missed him. We had a stretch when we had one of the best offenses in baseball, and he was right in the middle of it. Hamilton had 33 steals in 98 games last year. If he becomes a full-time player, he's going to be impactful. And then Max Kepler, who we've seen be useful in fantasy before. He got messed up by a knee injury last year and has also worked with Kevin Long on shortening his swing, being more direct to the ball, pulling it more. He's had a massive spring training, has Max Kepler, and could fare well in a deep Phillies lineup.
All right, for more extensive fantasy baseball coverage and for more deep sleepers as well, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.